origin point wealth. Now, this isn't something I've invented, it's actually giving name to something. Most people think wealth begins at the moment of sale, at the exit, at the IPO, at the chart, at the permission slip. But that belief is recent and it's broken. This generation's confusion around wealth didn't come from ignorance, it came from betrayal. We lived through Enron, where numbers existed without substance, then Theranos, where confidence replaced function and bodies paid the price. After that, the world internalized one lesson. If it sounds visionary, it's probably fake. If it's real, it should already be approved. That trauma shaped how people evaluate value, and it completely erased one form of wealth from the collective imagination. I call it origin point wealth. Origin point wealth doesn't begin at the moment of sale. It begins at the moment of creation, the instant something is brought into existence. If it functions, it produces yield. If it persists, it already has value. A song earns before it charts. A book licenses before it's famous. Land with embedded systems produces value before it's sold. An estate with integrated intellectual property generates yield simply by existing. That kind of wealth doesn't need hype. It doesn't need virality. It doesn't need belief. It works quietly. And that's why people trained in post-Enron logic struggle to see it. Enron and Theranos required belief before function. They required opacity to survive. They needed the future to justify the present. Origin point wealth is the opposite. It functions before belief. It strengthens under scrutiny. It produces value whether anyone is watching or not. This is where creatives fundamentally have a different vantage point. A creative understands something institutions were never trained to value: pre-visibility yield. When a creator makes music, writes books, designs systems, builds worlds, those assets don't sit idle waiting for permission. They generate micro value continuously. Royalties, licensing, cultural adoption, longevity, time-based compounding. Hell, you go to a pop-up, you can sell your stuff right away. This isn't speculative wealth, it's ontological wealth. It exists because it exists. That's why comparing creative systems to Enron or Theranos is a category error. Those systems simulated value. Creative systems are value. They don't collapse when belief disappears. They keep functioning. The real damage Enron and Theranos did wasn't just financial or medical. They trained people to distrust anything that isn't already liquid. So now we have a generation that believes if it hasn't sold loudly, it isn't real. But the truth is quieter. The most durable wealth in history has always been origin point wealth. Languages, music, ritual, land stewardship, stories, architecture, knowledge systems. None of those required exits to matter. They shaped civilizations before balance sheets existed. What's happening now isn't creators inventing something new. It's creators remembering something ancient and documenting it clearly. That documentation makes people uncomfortable because they were trained to associate structure with deception, but structure isn't the problem, opacity is. Origin point wealth is transparent, traceable, audible, live, and that's why it survives every so-called verification era. Because when verification finally arrives, the assets were already working, no narrative maintenance required. So if someone looks at music connected to estates, books embedded in infrastructure, or systems that generate money by existing, and feels confused, that confusion isn't flawed. It's a symptom of being taught the wrong origin point. Wealth doesn't start at sale, it starts at creation. And once you see that, everything else reorders itself.